Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Susie Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us today about having a ton of energy and being a serial entrepreneur. Today, you'll be meeting Sheree Clark, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who's a midlife courage coach and loves helping women move past their fork in the road. Welcome to the show, Sheree. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Susie. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know we're going to have a great conversation, I can totally tell, about your midlife entrepreneur story. We'll be talking about your business and what's going really well. Also, what midlife issues or hiccups might be getting in your way to some extent and are challenging for you in your life, and as well as being a business owner. So let's get this started. If you could talk a little bit about how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, a little bit about what you're doing now. I love all of that stuff. So take it away.
Absolutely. So I am 66 years old as we are speaking now. I will be 67 later on this year. And I call myself a serial entrepreneur because I began my career when I was 28 years old. I had a master's degree. I went to work for a university, and I decided at some point that I didn't want to do that anymore. Started a business with someone who was at the time a life partner, not anybody that I married, but it was a man that was involved in advertising and graphic design. And it was great. I loved it. We started this business together. The personal relationship imploded after about 14 years, but we stayed in business together for 11 years subsequent, which really probably gives me bragging rights to be able to come back just to talk about surviving that. But we won't go there. So after that, I decided that since we were in business together for 25 years, I wanted to do something else, but I didn't know what it was. I was 53 years old, and I knew I had to get out of what it was that I was doing. And I couldn't think because the business was too successful. I was too busy, and I knew that I had to have some kind of a breathing room or some time to think to be able to do that. So I left. I sold my interest to him and decided I was going to become a health coach. I did that because I was interested in health and well-being. I had been to culinary school. I taught people how to cook, healthy cooking. And that was all fun and well and good for a couple years. But during that process, Susie, I realized that I was helping women who were interested in maybe losing weight or getting rid of a sugar addiction, or, they were dealing with food things. But at the end of the day, that wasn't their problem. The problem was they were in a marriage that wasn't working, or in a career where they were miscast, or something else was going wrong, and food was their numbing out technique or their medication or the salve or whatever they were using it for. And I made the decision I would rather work on the problem than the symptom. And that's when I switched my focus to life coaching, and specifically to being a midlife courage coach. So that's the 40,000 foot view.
I love it. That was very succinct. I love it. And I love how you started something, took the data, and you were really, thinking, how am I resonating with this? What can I do better? What's really intriguing? And then you moved in that direction. That's awesome. So when you think about being at this age and stage with all of the experience you have, what do you think is kind of in the way a little bit? And for some people, it's a hiccup that's huge. For others, it's just a little thing that they find themselves thinking about, but it's definitely related to being this age and stage.
For me, the issue of being this age and stage, I've mentioned I'm 66. So I live in the United States. So I have Medicare. I am now eligible for Social Security. I could, if I want to, ride off into the sunset, and I don't want to. I love what I'm doing, and it's viable. I'm successful. Things are going well. And yet I think to myself, okay, I won't do this another 20 years for sure. So how long will I do it? There is no compelling time frame or schedule. It's just, and which sounds luxurious, and it is, except that, everything else we had a time frame for. Everything else. I mean, if you were going to have kids, there was an expiration date. If you were going to go back to graduate school in many cases and be able to pay off, an advanced degree, you probably needed to do it by this point in time. I don't have that. And it's like, it sounds like a pretty good problem, but it's not in some ways because I need to know when to go.
That is so interesting. And in your notes, you wrote, like in your application, I don't see myself working until I keel over, but
Yeah.
that's right. You have to know when you want to go, and you don't right now. So you find yourself spinning on it, I'm sure. What's it like to spin for you?
For me, here's where it shows up. So I make decisions about, whether I'm going to hire a new team or expand, or whether I'm going to, let's say I decide I'm going to be a podcast host, or I'm going to change platforms, buy a new computer system. All of those decisions, it's easy if you've got a 20-year runway. It's easy to say, yeah, we'll grow, we'll try this. But when I'm like, well, am I going to work till I'm 70? That's 4 more years. Does it make sense to change up a lot of stuff? Or does it make sense to stay status quo? So it permeates all of the day-to-day decisions.
Oh, I can totally see that, because as entrepreneurs, we know that we have to try new things. We know we need to evolve. We know that experimenting is part of the game, because you don't know, especially when it comes to marketing. I remember early in my career, somebody told me, yeah, marketing works 50% of the time. And the only problem is you don't know which 50% it is.
Bingo.
So yeah, I can see how that will really kind of be not a wet blanket, but it's something that's pressing on all of your decisions in some way.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And some of it is dollars and cents. Like, does it make sense to invest in this? And will I get an ROI? And sometimes it's a learning curve. Do I want to learn a new thing, or do I just keep going with what I've got?
That's so, yeah, I see it. And you know what? I didn't think about it in that way until you explained it like that. It's really true. Like when we kick off being an entrepreneur, well, this didn't happen for me. I was also in my early 50s when I started, but I wasn't thinking about it the way I am starting to think about it now. I'm turning 60 this year. So, and if you start in your 40s, you're probably not thinking about it at all.
No.
Yeah.
It's not on the radar, but it's very much on the radar when you get older, because you start thinking about, and then same thing with team. I start thinking about, do I hire a new person knowing that I can make a commitment to them for a certain amount of time? And is that fair? And yeah, like all of it.
Yeah, that's so good. And the other thing that you mentioned that I hadn't thought about is this idea of the network that you've built over your lifetime and how that may have changed now. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it sure has. So, a network of people. I was in advertising for 25 years. And so there were a whole bunch of people. I was an expert. I had written 3 books, traditionally published books. And during that period of time, I was president of our association. You do all these things and you build this kind of street cred, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, then when you change, and I did a 180. I mean, I wasn't even in the same arena, in terms of business. So you start over, and you kind of start over. I mean, there was some cross pollination, of course, because I think when you're good at what you do in your community and you're well known and you kind of have a brand, some of that translates, but not all of it. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, now I've got street cred in this new business and arena. What does that translate to in terms of what I do next? Because even if I decide I'm not going to be a courage coach, a midlife courage coach any longer after a certain period of time, certain number of years, I'm not going to just fold up the tent. So what will I do? And what will that look like? And how do I call on the people that I've known in my past, the current past, the current, recent. And then what about the distant past? I have a master's degree in education. I worked at a university. Now it was 40 years ago, but there's still connections there. So all of it, you think about all of it.
That's so interesting. I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody who was moved back into the town where she practiced real estate almost 20 years ago. And so she was just last night reaching out to those people and connecting with them again. And back in the day, many of them didn't even have emails, because that's how long ago it was, right? And so it was so like just thinking about that is connecting with people from the distance past that you had valuable relationships with. Tracking them down is one thing. And then the other thing is a lot of them may have in your world may have retired.
Exactly. Well, the good news is, though, retire, and even that word has different meaning now than it did when my parents used the word
Totally.
retire. And so it oftentimes, and I know this is important to you too, it's not retire, it's reinvent, it's reallocate resources, it's whatever that is. But really, at the end of the day, that's kind of what this topic of conversation is. It's when do I evolve? What do I evolve to? And can I do some planning for it? People who are empty nesters, you know when that's going to happen, or within reason. You get
Ish.
when ish.
Ish.
Yeah, that's right. Assuming they don't boomerang.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of boomeranging.
Yes, exactly. But in my world, it's kind of like that's the whole, I guess that's where my discomfort or malcontent is coming from. It's like I don't have urgency.
Right. Right. You have to create it yourself with your own personal goals and your own perhaps reinvented passions.
Yes, exactly. So, and
What an interesting thing, Sheree. Really giving me something to think about.
it's interesting to me too. And while it's not uncomfortable, if there's an uncomfortable part of it, it's that I don't know. And I guess it's kind of a blinding glance at the obvious. I've never been here before.
Right.
Which we
It's
can
not
say,
clear.
no.
We like clarity, right? You're an overachiever. You're doing things. You have a proven track record. And now it's like, I'm not clear about the next step. And you may have a different level of energy and different goals than many of your peers. And I'm hearing that from a lot of guests too, that they're gearing up when so many people around them are gearing down and doing very different things. So I can really see that with your network. So it could be a social network, it could be a professional network, and of course, there's a lot of overlap.
Yep. And the good part is too, because I am 66 and call myself a midlife courage coach, my clients either skew my age or in many cases younger. Having said that, my oldest client's 82. So, so it's not necessarily about age in terms of who you consider your contemporary. It's age in terms of who you know. And in my circle, in my world, I know a lot of people that are air quotes midlife, but midlife in my world anyway is a big, long swath of age. To me, it's 45 and up. And I don't think there's an end to midlife. I don't use the word elderly or senior or any of those kinds of things. We don't know when the middle is, because we don't know when the end is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always say age and stage, because there is some things that are common about the stage that we're in. We're still thinking about what's possible. We're still out there trying new things, and we're not really settling down. We're settling more into our priorities. But I don't know. I'm seeing that as something that's common with stage. And as we're talking, it's so funny because your cat is walking around. This is what I love about Zoom. So you have a large cat. I have a large dog, which he has not popped in yet, but I'm always so worried because if I close the door, he'll make a lot of noise barreling his way in. And if I leave it open, I can't really control what happens next.
Yes, exactly. Well, I don't even try to have the illusion of control with Lotus, my cat. He's got his own mind.
It's so funny. So in the application, I asked you, what's the most surprising thing about being a woman over 50 and being an entrepreneur? And you said, I'm still standing, that you've been an entrepreneur in all but 1 decade.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was fascinating. So tell me something about what you described as hair-raising times over the years.
Oh, well, I'm still standing really is this. If anybody had told me when I first decided to become an entrepreneur, all of the things that I would have to face and survive and endure and prevail over, I would have said, oh, hell no. I will stay as an employee. I am not cut out for that stuff. Forget about it.
Wow.
And so, for me, so just the little, not, I guess it's funny that I was going to call it little things. I was audited by the Internal Revenue Service, not once, but twice. And happy to report that in both instances, the first time I owed $600. Okay, fine. Look, can I just write the check and we not go through all this crap? And the second time was pretty much the same. It was, so it wasn't that, but the hard part is, what did I do? What have I done? What do they think I did? What could the outcome be? All of those horrible things, just simple things like a key employee leaving, somebody that you really depended on, that you invested a lot of resources and time and trust in, and they're going to be gone in 30 days. And now what the hell do I do?
Right.
Someone tried to kill my business partner. And I was out of the country when the attack occurred. I had to fly back, and get a flight out of Amsterdam during a holiday weekend when there were no flights available. So it's those kinds of things. Recession.
Those are hair raising. I didn't know what you were going to say, but those are hair raising.
Yes, exactly. And then there's the other little crap like recessions and economic downturns and loss of a key client, and all of those things. And so when I say I'm still standing, I get to say that. So,
oh yeah, you earned it.
Yeah. But we all have. Every entrepreneur here has a story. And many of us, you just file them away. It's like, well, yeah, I survived that. And you don't even think about it because what other choice do you have?
Well, as an entrepreneur, if you want to continue, you must rise.
Yeah.
Right. You have to figure it out. And we are really good at problem solving. That's for sure. So with all of your experience and the direction that you've taken your business, where do you see that really helps you be a courage coach for older women?
Oh, for me, that's a wonderful question. Here's the thing. So the kind of courage that we would call what I just described, I didn't have a choice about going through an IRS audit. I can't opt out. You can't say, sorry, no, it's not a good time. All of those things that I indicated, when I say that those were events that took courage, but at the end of the day, what choice did I have? It's like, here's the hand of cards you're dealt. You got to play them. The arena of courage that I like to play in is the one where courage is optional. It's the one where you know that your life situation isn't what you want it to be, isn't what it could be, isn't what you dreamed it could be. And to have it be something better or more, you've got to step up to the plate. You've got to say, okay, put me in, coach. I'm swinging at this ball. And that is the arena that I like to be in, because that's the kind where courage is optional. You can play small. You can go home, stay where you're at right now. And I know what the payoff is because I've done it. The time that I did it was walking away from that business that I said I owned for 25 years. I was 53 years old, successful, making a lot of money, well regarded in the community. And my friends, when I told them, I think I'm going to leave and I think I'm going to go do something else, their response was, why? You've got it made. Can't you just hang in there till you retire? Why would you give all that up? And when you don't have the support from the places that you thought you had it, that's when it's harder, because then you start thinking, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this is a pipe dream. What if I end up worse off? And so that's why that's what qualifies me to be a courage coach, not because of the things that I didn't have a choice about, but because of the things that I did.
Oh, I love how you explain that. You're right. You don't have to step up to the plate. And when you stay small, nobody will notice.
Right.
If you want to stay small, it's very easy to stay small. That's for sure.
Sometimes people don't even know what your unfulfilled dreams are. If you don't talk about them, they don't know that you thought, well, maybe I would do this. Maybe I would do that. It's just a thing, a secret.
If you even are in touch with what you want.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Wow. This was super fun. What is the best way for somebody to get a hold of you, Sheree?
So my web address is fork-road. And that would be the best place. I'm on social media as well, but go to my website. That's the best.
Perfect. Sheree, thank you so much for taking the time of your day and sharing all of this. And I'm so glad I got my notes straightened out. When
Thanks.
Sheree hopped on, I had the wrong notes for her. So at the beginning, I was very confused. And she was probably thinking, Susie, come on now. This isn't very professional.
No, I thought you were courageous. You kept forging forward.
I tried. I was very confused. I really appreciate how authentic and open you were about, how it's showing up for you to think about what's next and what's possible. And when there's no urgency, how you're, on your way to figuring that out. That was really, really important for us to hear. I totally love what you're doing. You're amazing. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening, and it's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.